Okay, so on this video we're going to look at rate problems. So these are word problems that have to do with speed, distance, and time. So we're going to be looking at the math behind this because this isn't a physics class. However, you're going to see this in science classes as well. So this is a great skill to have, the math behind this. So the formula that we're using is we're using our speed, which we're going to represent as this v, is equal to our distance over time. Now note that distance over time, you guys have a good idea of this. If we talked about speedometers, what do they measure in? It's miles per hour. So this is our unit for speed, miles per hour. And miles is a distance, and hour is a time. So that's a good way to remember the formula v is equal to d over t. Now, a lot of times you're going to have to rearrange this formula to suit your needs. Sometimes you're going to be solving for time, sometimes you're going to be solving for distance, and you'll have to know how to rearrange these. Well, if I multiply both sides by a t, the t's would cancel out, and this t would come up over here. So we're going to see that this is an alternate form of this equation, that my distance is equal to the time traveled times my speed. Okay, and again, we got that from multiplying both sides by t. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other, and these end up canceling each other out. Oops. And you're left with d is equal to t times v. Okay, let's put this back over here. So this is one optional formula, and that's if you're solving for your distance traveled. Okay, sometimes we might be asked for our time. So if we want to get another alternate formula where t is equal to something, well, you can see that if I multiply this side by t, just like before, so I have t times v is equal to d. And now I divide both sides by v, this v comes over here. And so this formula says that t is equal to d over v. That my time is equal to my speed, or my distance, sorry, divided by my speed. Let's get these out of here so it's not confusing you. So let's put this back in the original equation, and we can see that this is the original, and you can remember the original easily by remembering that it's miles per hour, so speed is equal to distance over time. And here's the two alternatives, where d is equal to time times speed, time is equal to distance divided by speed. Okay, let's look at a problem now. So this word problem says Nicole drove to the train station and back. On the trip she drove 30 miles per hour, and on the return trip she drove 45 miles per hour. How long did the trip there take if the return trip took 4 hours? Okay, seems complicated, but let's just break it down piece by piece. So let's break it down in her trip there, and we know that the speed was 30 miles per hour. And then on the way back, we're given that the speed was 45 miles per hour. Alright, let's look what other information we have. We have on the return trip that it took 4 hours. So let's write that down on the return trip side. And we're looking for how long it took her to get there. Okay, now just from intuition we can see that it's probably going to take her, well, it most definitely will take her longer to get there because she wasn't driving as fast. So we can predict that it's going to be a number greater than 4. So let's do this so we can keep this clear. let's put little subscripts. So these are subscripts. It just allows us to label what's going on. So I'm going to put a little T for there and a B for back on all of my variables. And I have more information on my backside, so let's come over and write the formula. And so I have this formula, B is equal to D over T. And I'm going to solve for my distance by rearranging that. I'm going to solve for the distance traveled. Since I have my V and I have my T, I can solve for the last unknown variable, and that gives me D is equal to 45 miles per hour times my time, 4 hours, and 45 times 4 gives me 180 miles. Okay, now that I know the distance, well, the distance for the trip there and the distance for the trip back are equal, so I can bring that number over here. And now I have this variable, and I can solve for my unknown here. So the time there, I'm going to set this up. Again, I'm solving for T, so T is equal to D over V. And I plug in the numbers, and I have 180 divided by 30, and that simplifies down to 6 hours. So that's my final answer.